listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that you're here with us. It is definitely a sunny but foggy morning out this morning, so I hope that despite the fog, that you're having a safe travel if you're on the road. You just have to watch out for those areas with rivers and swamps and things like that along the highway. So be careful as you're driving this morning. It is Monday, so hope you all had a good weekend. It's August the 28th, 2023. We got a great show planned for you today. We're going to be talking about some local news, whatever we're able to grab, however we're able to grab it, from wherever we're able to grab it. And we'll also be doing some talking about social issues and things that affect us in our everyday lives, not only people here in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, but also abroad in the world, whether it's as close as, Beaver Lake, let's say, or as far as China or Australia, all parts of the world. There's a lot of things that are affecting us that are similar regardless of where you live. And so it is an interesting world, and we're trying to make sense of it as much as we can. And a conversation sometimes is a way to unravel things and take the news of the day, discuss it. Not everybody agrees if you've been watching this show for any particular length of time, but we definitely like to have a conversation and want to keep free speech alive and well as long as it can be kept alive and indeed well. And we'll be talking a little bit about that today. Somebody who's in the fight for free speech, and rightfully so, somebody who's very eloquent at speaking, Dr. Jordan Peterson from Ontario, Canada, former professor of the University of Toronto, clinical psychologist, and he's right now in a fight with the College of Psychologists of Ontario, whether or not his online comments were appropriate or not, and they're looking at taking away his license to practice in Ontario if he does not take a re-education training on how to be online and what to say. And so we got a lot of people joining us this morning, a lot of people already checking in. So let's hop in with some weather. We'll be back. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM, CKLU.ca, Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News for the time being, and we'll enjoy it while we have the time. But we'll be back right after this with all what I just talked about and more right after the weather. So stick around. And as usual, Sudbury Weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, and it's 9 degrees. It is, fog patches dissipating in the morning, but today will be sunny. Wind becoming southwest at 20 kilometers late this afternoon. And high of 21 today. UV index 6 or high tonight. Increasing cloudiness. 30% chance of showers. Overnight, fog patches developing near midnight. This is the season of fog as the temperatures begin to change. Tuesday, cloudy, 30% chance of showers, changing to 70% chance of showers in the morning. Fog patches dissipating in the morning, high of 15. Look at your 6-day forecast. Tuesday, as we said, 70% chance of showers. That's tomorrow, 15 degrees. Wednesday, sunny, 19. Thursday, sunny, high of 25. Friday, mix of sun and cloud, high of 26. And, well, it looks a little bit different from what we just talked about with the percentage of showers. But anyways, Saturday, 40% chance of showers, high of 25. And Sunday, mix of sun and cloud, 26. So anything can happen this weekend, just like on this show, just like it says at the beginning. Anything can happen, and it does, and it will. August the 28th, satellite view at 4 a.m. taken. There's a look at northern Ontario. You can see a lot of that cloud is moving away from Sudbury, going towards North Bay. And a lot of clearing there, and then some clouds in more north in Ontario. Other than that, things are looking good. We'll be back with more news headlines and more. Your comments right after this. Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Okay, and as usual, we have a few people jumping on already and people commenting, which I would encourage you to comment. I'll do my best to read them on the screen, off the screen, so people on the radio can hear your comments. But at the same time, I cannot guarantee as the show moves on that all the comments will be able to be read. However, if you go back, if you're listening on the radio and watch the shows on demand, whether on YouTube or Facebook, you can read those comments. And you can continue the conversation as well on the show, especially on Facebook. I'm not sure about YouTube. I think the comments go off on YouTube after the show is done. But on Facebook, you can. And many people do. And I would encourage that. Just keep the conversation alive. And with that, good morning, Judy. Thanks for being with us. You seem to be pretty much first in line every day. I've just noticed that now. Good morning. Hope you're having a good one. And Monique as well. Good morning, Sudbury, with a sunshine emoji. Happy Monday. Denise, good morning from Espanola. Good morning. I could say the same. Belinda says, good morning. How we walk with the broken speaks louder than how we sit with the great. Never underestimate kindness. Well, that's a great saying. Thank you so much. Yeah. Long story short, treat everybody with the same respect, whether rich or poor, free and bond. We'll get to that a little bit later, but treat everyone with the same amount of respect. Morning, Vin. Hope you're having a good morning. And David, stay safe. Take care. And you too. Hope you're recovering quickly there. See anybody else? Okay, so that's all the good mornings, and we'll get right into some comments, I guess, to begin. Usually first at bat with that is Dave. Good morning, Dave. I hope you're having a good Monday morning. Wonder if we will mention the flooding, record heat wave in the Northwest Territories, fires destroying cities, and those convoy people looting and stealing fire equipment and threatening firefighters. I haven't been able to come across any stories. I googled the convoy people stealing firefighters and things like that, but I wasn't able to find anything. I'm not sure why, but if you have the link to that, you can just share it in the chat. You forgot police restricting homeowners access to their own homes and delivering essential goods. So that's Vin chiming in there. So I missed your disclaimer this morning. I'm sorry about that. I hope everyone is having a great Monday morning. That's Stephen. I hope you are too. Thanks for joining us, Stephen. Good salmon fishing on the island last week, but they seem to have moved out to the deep water. That's why I missed the show last week. Okay, no problem, Vin. You're totally excused for a great reason. Good morning, Mike Parent. Thanks for being on. Great Monday morning for sure. Yeah, feels like a good morning. I don't know. Maybe it was a restful weekend. I'm not sure. Denise, When laws are unjust, we must act. Okay, well, a little bit of everything of what people have been already discussing will be in the show today. What is going on? People reporting no entry to help others. Blue helmets on the ground. What's that? Interesting. I never heard about the blue helmet people either. So that's interesting. Worth looking into. There's all kinds of things. And, isn't it interesting how confused everybody is about what's going on? So some people want to say just a blanket, it's climate change and just leave it at that. Some people are comfortable with that and want to get on the activist soapbox with it. And some people are like, maybe it's a little more complex than that. Maybe it's some forest mismanagement and some mismanagement in general, and maybe not enough firefighters and not enough infrastructure to be able to fight the fires. And all the way to it's done on purpose. And there's been, people lighting these fires, or at least a number of them anyways. So, and there's some that say maybe it's a little bit of everything. But it's interesting how confusing all of these fires have been for most people, and how, different, so many different angles coming out. And you can see the authorities in Maui anyways being very perturbed with the idea of them not giving very much information out and why people are speculating so much. You can see they're pretty upset. And I guess they just figured, look, you can just burn down a city, or a city can just be burned down and no one will ask any questions, or, who knows what's going on now. Denise, this is a long comment. I won't be able to read it on the radio, but I got a little bit of it on the screen, as much as will fit. And those that are joining can read it. Looks like it's in response to someone else's comment. So, I guess we're off and running about the fires right off the bat. Restricted media is leading to the confusion. Yeah, definitely, right? You find all these, there's not much information being coming out, and mainstream media is even asking some hard questions, and they're not answering them in a lot of cases. Great sunrise this good morning. Thanks, Jerome. You are right. Blue helmets usually mean United Nations forces, and I wouldn't doubt it in this case, for sure. Yeah, so there's a couple of people just responding to each other. So, Mike, I guess you're on the show and you made yourself known. So Dave wants to ask you something since Mike is here. Maybe you can ask him why the city isn't releasing the test on the asphalt, which would save the taxpayers up to 80% in road work. Why are you talking about fires in America and ignoring those in Canada? Well, I'm not really. I'm just more aware of the press conferences that were done concerning the Maui fires and how the response is. But no, the fires are all over the world, actually, not just in Canada or the United States. There's been a lot of jumping to conclusions and speculating. You're right. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is all, what are the reasons for this? The powers that be don't seem to be forthcoming with information as quickly as they possibly could be. And then they're getting mad that people are speculating. It's just weird. It's a weird kind of thing with the press that's going on, and not able to put my finger on why it's going on. The fireballs in Maui were likely some form of vegetation being hurled around by hurricane winds. Okay, so that's some of the intel that you're getting, and I wouldn't doubt that some of that is due to that for sure. Yes, I recorded what he was saying. Yes. Okay, so in response to someone else. So in Maui, the mayor will not give any accounts on where all the children are. Okay, so that's what I mean. Like, there's just, they're not forthcoming with information. And anybody, so and a good indicator of that is us on the show not really knowing the answers and then trying to find them, and then you find people on the internet or social media with their takes on it. And so you have mainstream media watching, then you have other people who are actually feet on the ground, right? So a lot of the social media are people that are walking through the streets, possibly people who live there or live around there or have lived there before, and they have a lot of insights to share. But the authorities are saying they're the devil. You cannot pay attention to anything they're saying, even though they're right there with a camera pointing at things. You shouldn't watch that because you should just listen to us. But they're not saying anything. So it's a weird, bizarre. And then when I say not saying anything, I know that's a blanket statement. They're not saying very much, and they're not giving many details out. And it just forces people to start speculating. And that's what in communications, you're supposed to put a kibosh to that and give actual information and control the situation and give clarity to people if you're in communications, which all of these big governments and police services and everything have communication departments. Good morning, Dave. Good question. I will follow up on this morning. Good. Way to go, Mike. Thank you very much for that quick response. I think speculation runs rampant because the technology, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, is faster than accurate news gathering can take place. Yes and no. I think you're right to some extent, but actually, it's. I think we know a lot more than is being told to people at first. That's the information's not getting out. So if you watch the press conferences, which I think you have, just pay attention to the questions the reporters are asking and pay attention to the answers they're being given. And ask yourself, is this a transparent dialogue between media and authorities? And are they answering the questions they're being asked? There's just been a trend with power and people over the last few years where people in power don't feel they need to give you an answer. They don't have to. They don't have to answer to you. How many times have you heard reports where it said, and we reached out to them, but they were unavailable to comment? Their office, they were unavailable. We reached out to their office and they were unavailable, or they're unavailable for comment. And you're paying for these. In the States, they're paying for the people. In Canada, we're paying for the authorities. We're paying for those people's positions, and they're accountable to the people. But there's just been a culture shift where they feel they're not accountable anymore. Case in point, all the things going on in our federal government. We don't even have an ethics commissioner. It's been the longest time in Canadian history without an ethics commissioner. The very commissioner that looks into corruption and people doing nefarious things in our government, supposed to be accountable to the people, but they don't have anyone in that position. That should tell you something. It tells me something. I would think that should tell you something about the people running the country. Michelle, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Maurice, good morning. Love the sunshine emojis. Always good to keep things positive. There's so much going on. And I wanted to mention that too, to keep positive even in this time of the world where there's so much going on that you can get upset about. And one of the things that you can control is the way you feel, regardless of what's going on. And instead of getting all stressed out about it or you know, having it affect you in a negative way, it is what it is. And it's always good to find your positive place, find something that gives you positivity, that can give you energy, recharge your batteries in a way without all the negative going on, regardless of what it is. So I'll be looking into CSIS reports soon, watch CPAC, and make my own mind up. Thank you. That's good. That's what we should be doing. Many comments coming in. Dave is saying, thank you, Mike, for that. He wants to know what's going on with the asphalt, which I think I'm in the same camp as him on that. So many comments coming in. So we're just going to move on with some local news, or we'll never get to it. And obviously, that's some important things going on right under our noses here. And we'll just, we'll be, as soon as we can get back to your comments and reading them on live for the radio people, like the convoy people, the radio people, we'll get to those as well. So coming up in Sudbury, something that I've been asked to promote was the headline from Sudbury.com is Get Jazzed Up downtown for the Jazz Sudbury Festival. The Jazz Sudbury Festival will jazz up downtown Sudbury on September 8th to 9th. Performers run the gamut from traditional jazz to Juno Award-winning blues artist Crystal Shawanda, Juno Award-winning jazz vocalist Emile Claire Barlow, who was named Female Vocalist of the Year in 2008 National Jazz Awards, names her influence as Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett, and Stevie Wonder. I definitely look up to those people as well. Jazz Sudbury welcomes the return of guitarist extraordinaire Reg Schwager, who never ceases to amaze. A press release from the festival stated, the 2023 lineup includes multiple Juno nominees, Denzel Sinclair and Alex Bird, as well as Cuban jazz duo Okan and jazz fusion group Queen Kong. Love the name, Queen Kong. It's kind of cool, instead of King Kong, obviously. So, yeah, you can get more information. You go to the Sudbury.com article. They have a special, every day they have Good Morning Sudbury, stories to start your day. And that's where you can find this story as the top story. Click on read the full story here. Or you can go to the Sudbury Jazz website as well. Get more information on that. You can Google Sudbury Jazz Festival and it'll point you exactly to where you need to go for all the information. We have a commercial that plays in rotation on CKLU that gives you the information on the Jazz Festival as well. Jazz is such a diverse type of genre. There's so many kinds of jazz, and a lot of times blues is kind of taken into that as well, which I am more a blues player myself, blues songwriter. And, I do all kinds of music, but I kind of mainly lean towards blues, and blues is at the core of a lot of our music. So, next story, U-Haul repurposing long vacant Sudbury building, long vacant old Rona building at 943 Barrydown Road will soon house a U-Haul storage facility with 650 indoor climate-controlled self-storage lockers. So, if you were needing a self-storage locker and you just thought, well, there are none left in the city that are available, here you have more that are going to be available on Barrydown Road, the old Rona building. The company took occupancy of the 19.5 acre property and the 36,000 plus square foot building on July the 13th, which has been vacant since 2018. They intend to hire at least 12 people to staff the new store, with positions to be posted online at jobs.uhaul.com. So if you're interested in a job working at that facility, looks like they're hiring 12 people. Jobs.uhaul.com is where you need to go. Apple Fest, again, lots of festivals. We just had Garlic Fest. It was a success. Blueberry Fest is going to be back with the new sponsor. Here we got Apple Fest. Right around the same time as Jazz Fest returns for a second year, September 6th to 9th. It's the second year Apple Fest has become a 4-day event, and more events have been added. The event is being put on September 6th to 9th by Seasons Pharmacy and Culinaria. Beautiful Field Farm and Fruit Trees, and Sudbury Shared Harvest. Events being hosted by Seasons Pharmacy and Culinaria, 815 Lawrence Street. It's the old, they had a dry cleaners there, almost at the lights where you turn up to Regent, I believe. No, the lights where you turn onto Martindale, right by there. 815 Lorne, nonetheless. Include demonstrations of some of the out-of-the-ordinary uses of apples for spectators, Wednesday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. These will be live streamed on Facebook, live on the Seasons Pharmacy and Culinaria Facebook page or stop in to participate. 815 Lawrence Street, where there are sure to be samples to try. For more information, you can read more on that on the Sudbury.com article. Hey Sudbury, Stories to Start Your Day segment on their website. Okay, so Valley East Days 2 coming up September 9th through 12th, I believe, at the Centennial Arena grounds. So it should be a great time. Stephen was thinking they should have put a film studio at the old Rona. So Valley East Days coming up as well. I should be there to see Big Wreck, one of my brother's favorite singers. Ian Thornley heads up that band, and I've seen them when they opened for Motley Crue in Sudbury, and they put on a great show. Amazing musicians. It'll be a great time. I think that's on Saturday night. I think they have a country artist on the Friday. We'll have more on that in subsequent shows. But anyways, thanks for bringing that up, Dave. Michelle says, we have a 1 million march, September the 20th, Tom Davies Square. March at 11 a.m. Please attend. A 1 million march, September the 20th, Tom Davies Square. 11, I believe that's a.m. I don't think you're going to be there at p.m. Please attend. So that's from Michelle. Valley East Days, September 8th to 10th. Oh, I said 10th to 12th, so sorry about that. 8th to 10th. Valley East Days is a festival, I think. It's just Valley East Days. It's kind of like a festival. It's been around for many, many years. September 20th, Espanola Hall at 1 p.m. I believe that's the 1 million march happening in Espanola. I'm just going on a limb and guessing that. It wasn't in your comments, Denise, but lots going on. Sudbury is the capital. I'm just going to declare it the capital of festivals. We have more festivals than we have almost names we can come up with for festivals. So it's great. So it means there's lots to do and things to get out and experience and enjoy. Speaking of positive things. And yes, that is the 1 million march here in Espanola on September 20th at 1 p.m. Cambrian program brings small engine repair to remote communities, so there's no classroom too far away and no programming that cannot be adjusted to meet the needs of students seeking upgraded skills and education to benefit the communities in which they live. That is certainly the case with a unique partnership between Cambrian College and the Education Authority in Saskatchewan. The two organizations have teamed up to teach small engine repair to 8 students who live in the communities along the James Bay coast. So yes, so I definitely have, the inside scoop on that, and kudos to Cambrian for getting out and doing some outreach. And small engine repair is something that definitely a skill that a lot of people could have that would benefit them for the rest of their lives, right? So can't hurt, that's for sure. Let's see. Okay, so Bob Barker, this is in Sudbury.com's Good Morning to Start News to Start Your Day segment. Bob Barker, the iconic host of The Price is Right, has passed away at the age of 99, known for his charm, humor, and tiny microphone with that long stick on it. Barker, the longtime host of television's The Price is Right, became a daytime television staple. Publicist Roger Neal said in a statement August 26th, "It is with profound sadness that we announce that the world's greatest MC who ever lived, Bob Barker, has left us." And so according to his biography by Encyclopedia Britannica, Barker spent more than half a century on TV, taking over as host of the popular Truth or Consequences in 1956, retiring from The Price is Right in 2007. So yeah, Bob Barker, no longer with us. And definitely many, many people, unless you're really, really young, definitely know who Bob Barker is and has watched him for many years. September 12th, March for Children, Tom Davies Square. So not only festivals, there's a lot of marches going on. So March for Children, September 12th, Tom Davies Square. I'm sure we can probably designate at least 10 minutes a day to announcements, community, events going on. And maybe we should put more effort into doing that, or at least have that available on our site. And speaking of that, sudburyevents.com. Danny, I'm supposed to get in touch and have a meeting and see how we can collaborate together. So yeah, maybe that will be a way to make it happen and make that a service to our community. Okay, so here we go. More news coming your way. I wanted to talk about, but I'm not ready for that, unfortunately. But, here we go. So Sudbury News at sudbury.news. It's working today. You just go on Sudbury.news, the aggregator's working. But if you try to go to just Sudbury, that's not working today. So one day one's working, the other day it's not. The other day one other link is working and the other one's not. So we're not sure why. It is what it is. Roll with the punches. Alumni and students at Laurentian University are expressing their concern about losing the popular meeting place on campus. The Laurentian Pub is going to be closing, and this is CBC reporting on this. I heard it on the way into work today as well. So the Student General Association decided to close the campus pub due to challenging circumstances. So what do you think when you hear that? If you're anything like me, you think, what are the challenging circumstances? And then the answer comes, no one knows. No one's telling us. The news came as a surprise to many Laurentian University community last week. Students General Association announced on Facebook that the pub Down Under is closed effectively immediately due to quote unquote challenging circumstances. There were no details about what those circumstances might be, but the Post went on to say there had been numerous efforts to reevaluate the operations and structure. We recognize this is a loss to our community. We have enjoyed the pub for many years. And to incoming students who were looking forward to spending time there, read the Post. Marlene McIntosh, part-time teacher at Laurentian University, said she'll miss the memories at the pub located under the Great Hall. I love the pub, and it gave us a job. Who studied at, so it gave us a job. She worked there at the pub back in 1981. Students needed a place to go and unwind and relax. It's needed to have a place just to blow off some steam, not worry about the studying and the homework. Yeah, you do need that from time to time, as long as you're not there too often. McIntosh worked at the pub 40 years ago. The pub itself was really welcoming, she said. Students without a place to have alcohol on campus will likely have more private gatherings and parties. There's going to be somewhere that they're going to congregate, so I could see more parties that can be pretty disruptive when other people come in and do things they shouldn't. So yeah, that is some of the concerns with closing the pub. A number of alumni reacted to SGA announcement on Facebook with concerns students will miss an integral part of the student life at Laurentian. So many people have comments about that. What does the Student Association say about that? Nothing. Just challenging circumstances. So, inquiring minds want to know. I know they were going to have an interview, so the SGA believes it's important to recognize that the campus culture is not static, but dynamic and evolving. So this is just part of life. Things happen. Pubs close. We're not sure why. There's just challenging circumstances, but it happens. Welcome to today. No need to give accountability or to give reasons. I guess they're learning young there, how they're going to be when they get into politics and become leaders in our communities and things. No accountability world. All right, so let's move on. It is about that time. There's stuff happening in our world. Surprise. Jordan Peterson taking some fire for, his comments on social media. And like promised, we're going to be covering that. And there was an interview done by him many years ago where he was basically laying out the reason why our society is the way that it is. So it gives some insight. And it's all through an ideology that is based in Marxism and is taught in our universities for many, many years. And now our universities are just riddled with just, it's only Marxist ideology that's basically allowed to be the ideology of choice. And it's taught. My first day of university was, now we're going to learn about Marxism, because everything that we learn from here on in is based on that. No word of a lie. From the horse's mouth, I swear. And I even have video that I have of one of the professors, because a lot of it was online because it was during the pandemic, explaining what Marxism is and why it's in our universities. And I will share that with you at some point as we move this conversation along and just try to make sense of our world and how Marxism has actually got into our institutions mainly, and that's what it was designed to do, get into all of our institutions, and from there, transform the world radically. You've heard that word before. Radically change the world. And so here's Dr. Peterson on his next part 2 of that interview. And like I said, we'll just kind of methodically go through that interview because it's pretty long, and we'll share like 5 minutes of it every show this week as he is appealing the court's decision that the Ontario College of Psychologists want him to take re-education on how to conduct himself online. So it's good to hear from the actual person, not just hear news headlines or what the CBC or CTV or Sudbury.com or Sudbury Star are saying about it, but you can hear from the actual person yourself if you want to take the time. But if you want to say, oh, this guy he's all these things and I can't listen to him, I will not listen to him. Well, then this is your chance to just change the channel or, go to, click off of this broadcast. But if you actually want to hear from the person who they're saying needs to be re-educated, here's a chance to hear a little bit from the horse's mouth, right? Make your own mind up. Unless words are too dangerous for you and you're not able to listen to words. And if you're not able to listen to words, then you can't listen to anybody. So even if the government tells you there's sanctioned things you need to listen to, and they try and shut down media through bills and through policies and through laws, you eventually got to listen to someone. They want you to just listen to them. And who's to say what's dangerous or not is the way I look at it. And you should be mature enough to hear people talk and make your own decisions of what they're saying, right? So yeah, that's just where I come from. That maybe I'm just too hopeful and optimistic in humanity. I don't know. Oh, here you go, Dr. Peterson, part 2. We'll be back right after this.
Well, but that's the issue, is that caring for someone or for a group of people is a very complicated thing. And it doesn't always mean be compassionate and feel sorry for them because they're downtrodden. It's not good enough. Like a lot of the structures that we've put in place to help people over the long run are rather harsh in their operations in the short term. I mean, so the values that are associated with trait conscientiousness, for example, which are reasonably good predictors of more conservative leaning political belief, aren't warm, fuzzy virtues. They're cold, hard, judgmental virtues. They're the demands for performance, for example, that go along in the workplace. But if you want to take care of an infant who's crying, you want warm, instantaneous, impulsive compassion. Because there's a problem and it needs to be solved right now, and you have the solution, right? The baby's too hot, the baby's too cold, the baby needs to be fed. You can fix that right now. If you're dealing with systemic problems of poverty, for example, or trying to determine how to produce more opportunity for everyone to benefit from everyone's abilities, you have to use a hell of a lot more than compassion to get there. And so to think of community in the positive sense as being driven by nothing but empathy, which is really one of the central arguments of the postmodern types, at least that's what's driving some of their argumentation, is it's an absurd proposition. So it's not so much that they confuse the two things, is that they fail to differentiate the concepts to begin with. It's very, very difficult to build functional structures that help people thrive individually and socially over long periods of time. And merely being empathetic, man, that's just going to get you nowhere. A 3-year-old is empathetic. And I'm not dismissing that. Empathy is important, but as a problem-solving mechanism, it has very, very limited utility.
Yeah. Well, this brings me back to, we talked briefly about, National Socialism, fascism, and collectivism. The difference being, from my understanding, fascism was made to control the individual. Marxism was more control of means of production. Socialism more means of controlling the fruits of production, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we've seen the destructive nature of collectivism in destroying the individual, right?
Well, I think that's actually the point in large part. I mean, Derrida, for example, coined a term he called phallogocentrism, which he regarded as the central axiomatic position of the West. That not only the Enlightenment West, but also the Christian, or Judeo-Christian for that matter, West prior to the Enlightenment. Derrida went after the tradition running through Judeo-Christianity, through modernism and the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, and criticized that. And that was the idea that, and he was critical of this, it's the presupposition that culture is first male-dominated, which is a presupposition that I take great exception to, because it's a radical oversimplification of the historical story. To the degree that culture was male-dominated, it was only dominated by a very small number of males. Most males were serfs or soldiers or cannon fodder, for that matter, or coal miners dreadfully toiling away for their work. Certainly as oppressed as women were in general by the absolute poverty of the conditions. Up till 1895, the average person in the Western world lived on $1 a day in today's money. Right, so I mean, you don't have to go back very far in time before you find everyone oppressed, but not by the socio-cultural system, merely by the absolute, insane difficulty of life itself. Well, so Derrida described the West as male-dominated, which I think is something to take serious issue with as a blatant claim. It's not differentiated enough or sophisticated enough. And he also said it was logos-centric. And that partly means logic, but there's a deeper meaning to logos, because logos is also the second person of the Christian Trinity. And Derrida knew that perfectly well. And so his criticism, Derrida was a smart man, make no mistake about it, and lots of the things he said were correct. Like, one of the propositions he laid forth was that there is a near infinite number of ways of interpreting any situation or any text, which happens to be technically true. And that's been discovered in all sorts of fields, including artificial intelligence. So the central claim that he begins with is actually true. And it's not surprising that it had such a powerful effect on the humanities, because it's actually an extraordinarily powerful and undermining idea. But he took it much far. He took that idea in directions that I don't think it should have gone in at all. But the logocentric idea is that his criticism of the idea of the logocentric society is a deep criticism of the idea that the individual as a speaking force, as a communicative force, is the appropriate highest value upon which a culture should be built. He took that apart and criticized it. And so that's a deeper criticism, I would say, even than Marx's criticism, which was mostly about unequal power relationships. Derrida went deeper than that. And the postmodernists that occupy the universities are anti-individual right down to the bedrock. And so that's partly why they push collectivism to such a degree. They don't give a damn who you are. They care what your group identity is. And that's that.
So we'll be back with more of that for part 3 tomorrow. We already did part 1 on Friday, right? And it's the whole laying out from Dr. Jordan Peterson of Marxism, how it's evolved over the years, how it's kind of got into our institutions, mainly beginning through the university system. And then once you teach it, all of the graduates then go out into the world and pollinate They pollinate all the institutions and they get in there and they believe these things because your mind is very susceptible when you're 18 and 19 and 20. And I was 47. So obviously I knew already coming in what to expect. And I already knew that this was being taught in universities. And so right away I said, I was taken back when that was the first statement I heard. We first need to talk about Marxism. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. And the class wasn't about Marxism, obviously. It was in communications, right? So I forget what class it was on. I remember the spectacle was part of it and what the spectacle is, and many, writings on what a spectacle is. It's not really reality. And that's how media then can, just the film itself can make you believe something. And so it was very deep and very telling, and there's a lot to it, but the class shouldn't have had anything to do with Marxism. But then the actual idea of the spectacle itself came from the Marxist movement early on, at least in the 1960s. That movement, there was a Marxist activist who came up with the idea of the spectacle and all these things. And I'm sorry I'm speaking generalities because I'm already onto a master's of business right now, and that's where my mind is. And I'd have to go back to my notes and reread. And how much do we really retain from school? And I documented everything. I saved every single lecture, every single paper I've ever done, every single article they gave us to read. It's all saved. So I have it all. I can go back. I could probably teach the classes because I have all the information. And I knew that, so I did the test. I did as good as I could. I moved on, and then after that, I'm moving on. But I get the gist of it. I get what it's about. I get the main ideals of it. The names of people, the dates, the details is where I kind of I have to go back and look at. So the postmodernists basically have, if you have control of the education system, and then you're able to teach all these young people to go out into the world with that indoctrination. And I basically looked at it like that. It was like, because I attend church every Sunday, and I'm very involved in church. And I was able to make the comparison. This seems like church to me. It doesn't seem like university. There's more going on here that seems seems religious in some levels than just education on a skill or a vocation of some kind. There's a lot of indoctrination going on, tons, and I just felt it and I knew it, and then the students would just regurgitate back what the professor wanted, and they were applauded and given the gold sticker. And you're right, everything I told you, you said it back to me, you're right. And there you go. After that, for the rest of their lives, every time they hear something that goes along with what they learned in university, they will hold on to that and say, yeah, that's the truth. I learned that in university. And they build on that for the rest of their lives. So here, Dr. Jordan Peterson, who comes from that industry, the education industry, a professor in a university, a renowned professor, was able to see what was going on, because basically, as a psychologist too, there's a lot going on in your brain when you believe things to be true for whatever reason. Like there's a process to that. And Goebbels from the Nazis basically understood this, and he was the minister of propaganda. And when you want to teach people something and have change a culture, change a world, change the way a country thinks. Everyone wonders, how did Germany get to where they got? Well, you don't think that's documented? You don't think people study that? You don't think future leaders of the world look at how they were able to get people to go from where they were to where they ended up? You don't think that's very well studied and then implemented? And like Dr. Jordan Peterson says, you package it a different way. You repurpose it. It's the same thing in the inside, but you just put a different wrapping paper on the outside of it and you call it something else. And then you resell it again. And that's what's going on with a lot of these ideologies. And I think Dave mentioned we're not talking about fires and things going on. But if you look at what is at the base, this is at the core of the fires. If you really want to take a deep dive in your own brain, this ideology is what's landed us where we are. Now we're seeing, far down the road. It began, 50s and 60s, and now we're seeing the fruits of this taking over our institutions and where it's ending up. So the whole world's on fire, literally. I ended one of my papers with burn it all down, and the professor said, don't you think that's a little extreme? Because I was just giving them what they wanted, right? I was just speaking in a Marxist tongue back as if I agreed with all their ideologies. And at the end of the paper, I said, we just got to burn it all down. Burn our society down to the ground. And again, all she said was, don't you think that's a little extreme? I think there could be other methods there to take down capitalism and to reshape our world in what? We don't know. We don't have any other solutions for it, but we just know we need to take down capitalism, which is the number one goal of the Marxist movement. Because what comes in place of capitalism? A free market. The word free in there, market. Sure, there's crony capitalism, and it can get bad, but it takes government to make crony capitalism. I just have to make that point. You can't have crony capitalism without the government backing you up. You just can't. So instead of capitalism, you end up with fascism, and you end up with, now we have technology linked with it as well, which makes it even more dangerous. You have Google and Facebook and Apple, and you have these technologies that know every single thing about you. And technocracy, I heard the term before. So, whoever's got all the data on everybody has the power, right? And that's really what the world we're looking into is a total surveillance world, and someone needs to be at the top of the food chain there. And so we'll do our best to explain what I just said, and if that sounds very alien to you, what I just said, then that's what I want to do is part of the show, is to educate, and maybe unlearn some of the things, or learn the right way some of the things that many of us learned in our university experience. And with that, my comments on this show, or those of a guest or anyone commenting, are not those necessarily of Laurentian University or that of CKLU. I take full responsibility, unlike many of the leaders and authorities in our world, of the things I say, and I'm totally accountable for those of my own. If I say it, I'm accountable for it. I'd also like the ability to explain myself, though, as well. And that's what the world I'd like to have, is where we listen to each other and we have a chance to explain ourselves and make our points and have open debates. I think that makes for a healthy society. I have a really great segment from Redacted talking about CBDCs. Speaking of all this totalitarian kind of technocratic world government type stuff, where they have now come up with the idea that, we've heard of a living wage. Everyone's paid so much money, and so you don't have to work because there's going to be less jobs because of technology. So everyone's going to be on a living wage. It's such a great thing. The Marxists love this, the postmodernists. That's part of their whole idea. Everyone's got the same pay. Equity, right? Everyone's the same. We all get the same pay. Well, that's never works. It will never work. But the way they're going to do this is they're going to offer you the living wage, because you're going to be losing your job soon, or many people will, because the economy's going to tank globally. And they're going to offer you $2,000 a month, but you got to get a chip in your hand. So, and that'll be your digital currency. And so everyone says, why would I get a chip in my hand? I'm not going to get a chip in my hand. Well, if you had to feed your family, you had to pay your bills, you might just do that, right? So we got a really good video on that tomorrow. It's about the digital currency the world's going towards, even Canada. So you're going to want to pay attention to that tomorrow. yeah, so thanks for being with us. Thanks for commenting, everyone. Did my best to get everyone's comments at least up on the screen like I do every show. Thanks for joining us. We had quite a few people on today. We do our best on the show. It's all volunteer. And we'll be back, God willing, same time, same place tomorrow. So have a wonderful day, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow on CKLU 96.7 FM and CKLU.ca. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily. Have a great one, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.